A couple of months ago, I ruined a perfectly good, brand new TBS Crossfire Nano receiver like this one. And I didn't think much of it. I'll explain how I did it. Thing is that recently a friend on Instagram told me he had a problem, and it turns out he did exactly the same thing and also ruined one of these. So today we're going to talk about two things. We're going to talk about how to avoid that problem, and we're going to talk about shrink tubing because they're both very much related. Okay, let's take a look here. This is a TBS Unify Pro. This is the receiver I was just talking about. And then this is your standard flight controller. This is a Pyro F4 and a Hyperlow RS Plus. Now the reason I'm pointing these out is because, check this out. This is your boot button right here, which is a real button. When you press it down, it just goes click, click, click. And then what you have on the receiver over back here, not on the receiver, on the VTX, there's a lot of glare on it, but let me see, like this. This is an actual button as well. However, over on the Crossfire Nano and a couple other receivers, like let's say the XM Plus by FR Sky, there's no actual button. The button, it's actually a piece, a very thin piece of metal. Think about it like a bottle spaghetti sauce, where the cap, you can push it in and out, but it's actually not a button. It's just the metal flexes. So when you push this in, the metal flexes down and creates a contact and basically closes the circuit, and there you have a button click. But this makes it very, very fragile compared to a button, which actually can take a lot more abuse. Now, the thing is this. Let's go backtrack a little bit and talk about shrink tubing. Normally, when you buy these components, you get shrink tubing like this stuff. I don't know what it is or what it's called. I haven't really looked it up, but it's, you know what it is. It's kind of like stiff. It almost looks like Mylar. It does not stretch at all, but the one benefit is it's very thin and it shrinks a lot. So I like to use this on VTXs because I believe that it lets heat transfer a lot better. The normal shrink tubing that you buy at, say, Fry's, for example, or at electronics places, is this stuff. And this is apparently polyolefin, whatever the hell that is. But the point is that it's stretchy. This stuff is very stretchy, it's thicker, and when it shrinks, it gets even thicker. So I like to use this stuff in many other places because it is flexible, but I don't believe it transfers heat very well. So sometimes I'll use it on VTXs if I run out of the other stuff. I haven't really had any problems, but if given the choice and I have enough of this, which I haven't been able to buy on its own, that usually comes with the VTXs, I'll use that on VTXs when possible because, like I said, I think it transfers heat better. Now, here's the issue. When you use it on something like the Nano RX here, the antenna connector is very close. So when you put the antenna on there, you got a big old lump right next to the button. On top of that, this is very small. And this thing, because it doesn't stretch, when it shrinks, it gets really stiff. So what ends up happening is, in order to press that button, you have to press very hard. And on top of that, you get no feedback. So when you use shrink tubing like this stuff that you can get at Fry's, this is very flexible. It's almost like rubber. So when you push on it, it flexes really well and you can immediately get at the button. Now, when you use this stuff, there's a much bigger chance that you are gonna ruin it. That's the way I ruined one of these, and that's how my friend did it as well. Just pushing too hard to try and get the button to push through this. So if you use this stuff on something like this, cut a hole in it, or just don't use this at all. Use this stuff. Remember, and you can get smaller one as well. The Nano RX does not produce heat, so you really don't have to worry about having a shrink tubing that's too thick. That's only for the VTXs. So if possible, just don't use the stuff that comes with it and use this, because it's an expensive receiver and you definitely don't want to ruin it. Finally, I want to add one more thing. Most of the stuff that you buy at Fry's and whatnot, this is 2 to 1. So basically 2 to 1 ratio. it means that it is twice the size that it will shrink to. But you can get 3:1, 4:1, and I've even seen 5:1. That means that this thing, when you shrink it, it's going to shrink 3 times as much. And then the 4:1 is going to shrink 4 times as much. This is useful for when you have to get past a connector or something that's kind of big and the thing that's on the other side is smaller. A 2:1 will not shrink enough to get to the other side, but this will. Same thing for the 4:1 and 5:1. The one thing you got to keep in mind though is that all these shrink tubings that are more than 2:1, you know, the 3:1, 4:1, 5:1, they are actually a lot thicker and they're more brittle. So keep that in mind because you don't want to do this for a VTX because it'll make heat transfer even worse. The other benefit of using this stuff is that you can stretch it. Sometimes if I want to get really thin wall tubing, if you look here, for example, this VTX is bigger than the tubing, but I'll still use it. I'll take a pair of needle nose pliers, and after I cut this, I'll put the needle nose pliers in there and pull them out to stretch it, and it'll stretch quite a bit. And then I'll just shove it back in there and shrink it. And that's nice because it makes the wall thinner. You don't have to use something very big. The bigger it is, the thicker the wall is when it shrinks. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully this tip will help you avoid ruining your receiver. And again, thanks for watching. Thumbs up to the video, subscribe, hit the bell so you can get more as soon as I post another one. Thank you.